You are watching the education edition of The Guy Dawson Show at WCOBM.com, the World Center of Broadcast Media. Also wanted to remind you to always tune in on Wednesdays to the PR Connections radio show. It is the radio show that Kwan and I are a part of, and it was my launch in broadcasting, and I really enjoyed a radio format. We cover cutting-edge concepts in business, marketing, personal development, have a lot of interesting guests, like I've had both of the guests that I had on the television show on that platform as well, and we air every Wednesday at 11 a.m. at the new VegasAllNetRadio.com. We appreciate you tuning in every week. It's a different vibe, much different experience that you have on the radio, but I thoroughly enjoy it, and Kwan's been teaching me Chinese. I'm learning very, very slowly.
That's not true.
People maybe
I'm in 5-6 sentences yesterday within like a couple minutes. Gosh, you threw me out of a chair.
Well,
people actually learn better on the radio sometimes because they have to listen and they don't see. And so so
your imaginative faculties really coming.
Sometimes it's better if you're listening on the radio, and so I mean it's not, radio's a good thing. Yeah. Besides, you're a good-looking guy, and Sharon and Kwan, and I'm okay, and so
look at all these beautiful people. Wow.
So we can get away with TV a little bit, but there's some people who belong on radio.
So please, whether you think I belong in front of a camera or not, please tune into the PR Connections radio show every week at VegasAllNetRadio.com. Kwan, someone out there loves you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Sweet. Thank you for supporting. We really love to have you all. And please come in on the show. Then your voice will be heard.
Yeah. Sharon asked a question, and I think it was a good question. I wanted to do I feel like I'm all alone out there? And really I'm not. I mean, I sometimes feel like it, but in reality, there's a lot of people out there who support me, but they have to do it covertly. Because if they do it overtly, I've had people say, I really like what you say, but if I like it on Facebook or whatever it is, they're afraid the school system will find out and they'll put them through what they put me through. What they put me through has really quashed a lot of conservative Christian men and women out there who are teachers who would like to be able to speak to what's going on out there, and they can't because they're afraid. And it's a legitimate fear. It's not a paranoia. It's not paranoia if they're actually out to get you. So. I don't feel alone, but it's I'm just the type guy who God's never given the zipper over the mouth mentality. I can't keep my mouth quiet. I have to speak out about things and tell people. And like I said, this book is just facts. It's just a couple of facts that things people need to really read and really understand, because we are in a state right now. Where our country is kind of like, and a lot of people talk about it, we're right on that threshold right now of, we could turn to, a socialist country versus being a capitalist, being a free country, and we're right there on the cusp. And I don't think we can teach too many more generations about the liberalism or the, socialist issues. And that's what this is. That's what we teach in our schools. We teach this liberalism. We teach, like I said, sex ed, and we teach it from a liberal point of view. We don't teach it from a conservative point of view. We teach environmentalism. We tell our kids that the world's falling. There's a bunch of Chicken Littles out there. Al Gore's the biggest one. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. And you teach that enough, people are going to eventually believe it, and they're going to take that with them. And so we're right on that cusp, and that's why I am out there speaking out the way I am. My book is just kind of a stepping stone for me. My concern is to save education, because if we don't save education, we can't save America. Abraham Lincoln said it. He said, what's taught in the schools in one generation will be practiced in the government of the next. Stalin said similar things. They all realized that whoever controls education will control the future. And so that's where conservatives really need to get their feet. They need to dig their feet in. Because, you can put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. You're still going to have the bullet wound until you go in there and get that bullet out. And it's the same thing with our system. We can get a Republican Congress, Republican president, but unless we fix the education system, we're kind of like...
Right, we have to come together at some level to get this done, right? We can't stay in this partisan thought process, this is my thoughts on it, is as long as we stay separated, even though there's the differences in the thinking, at some point we have to come together collectively as Americans to solve this.
But you have to figure out what an American is. And see, and that's the problem. We've lost our identity. We don't know what an American is. I mean, our foundation of this country was all, and our morals were all based on the Bible. I mean, you read George Washington's farewell address to his country. It's all, you cannot have morality without the Bible. It's just not going to happen. And you read what our founders said, and that's what they say. And so we have to define what an American is, and we've lost that. And the Republicans or conservatives, whoever you want to call them, have been compromising so much. We keep compromising. Eventually, you don't have nothing to give away. And that's where we're at right now. We don't have nothing to compromise with. And so, I'll never forget, I mean, I don't know if you remember when Clinton was in office, how everybody thought he was so liberal, blah, 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 blah. And I remember about 2 years after Obama got elected, I remember Hannity on his show he says, man, I wish we had Clinton back. And so can you imagine in 10 years from now, Hannity going, gosh, I wish we had Obama back. Where will we be then? I mean, who's going to be in charge, when that happens? So it's, and that's going to happen if Americans do not take over our education system again.
Jim, do you see, one of the things that I see, particularly here in Las Vegas, is we continue to, the governor just signed for more money to go into education. Money is not the issue.
Yeah, there's two things that the governor, who I had sat down with before he was elected, and he lied to me in that conversation, but there's two things that can't happen. More money's not going to work. The more money you put in, the worse education. There's a real correlation there. Mm-hmm. The second thing is he talks about, let's make it easier to fire teachers. Let's make it more difficult for them. Well, I mean, if I'm not an example of why that won't work, I mean, I would not have even had an arbitration had it been easier to fire teachers. Hey, we don't like this. It's going to be a personality conflict. We don't like this guy. He's out of here. And that's what it's going to be. To judge a teacher by how his students are doing, and I asked you yesterday on the radio show, I says, would you like to be judged by the stupid people you've had on your show? Not that you've had any on there before, but I'm sure, But
well,
I mean, if you did, if you did, would you like to have you be judged by that? I mean, you can only pick your guests, and then they have to follow through, and it's the same thing. I mean, you don't know what this child's been through. If you're teaching in the 6th grade, his first 5 years, he may have been such a jackass kid. The teachers were just passing him to get him out of their class, or they were passing him because they had a fear of if they failed them, which is a big fear. You can't judge a teacher by how well a student does. You cannot judge somebody by the actions of others, and that's another problem we have in our system and in our country, is personal responsibility. Absolutely. It's the parents and the child's responsibility to get the education. You can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink. You can throw a kid in a classroom, you can't make them learn. And so it's just vital that we take back our education system. And I know we only got a little time, but we want to talk about my book signing. I know the book signing
really quickly.
It's Saturday at 1 p.m. at Barnes & Noble in Henderson. It's on Stephanie Street, just south of Sunset. And there's only one Barnes & Noble in Henderson. It's a big store. Should be a lot of people there, so get there right about 1 o'clock. And I'll see you then. And my website is www.jimblockey.com/book.
Thank you so much for stopping by the show, Jim. We are near the end of the Guy Dawson Show for this week.
Thank you, Jim, so much.
No, my pleasure.
The fact is not
Please tune in to our show next week at 2 o'clock p.m. here at WCOBM.com. Take care of yourselves, and see you next week.